Welcome students to another video. We are on our third lesson in probability. This would have been our entrance slip. So it says if the probability of A is 1/4, probability of B is 5/6, and A and B are independent, what is the probability of A and B? Because it says they're independent, this formula holds true. Probability of A and B equals the probability of A times the probability of B. Well, let's just substitute these things in. We want A and B. We're given A, and we're given probability of B, 5/6. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 times 4 is 24. So the probability of both of these things happening, essentially not at the same time, but both of them happening, is 5/24. So again, that's 5/24. Pause the video here if you had an issue with that. Okay, so we use the word and. Okay, now today we're looking at the word or. And, right? Also, this symbol means multiply, or, okay, the word or, also this symbol, just a regular U, means add. So let's see. This is just another simple one. This is a test for independence. So this is saying, before we get into the new stuff, this is another thing from the other day. So this formula holds. If this formula holds, then A and B are independent. Okay, I'm just going to write I and D. So probability of A is 0.5. Probability of B is 0.2. Probability of A and B is 0.1, 0.10. Does 0.5 times 0.2 equal 0.10? Yes. So A and B are independent. All right, so this one over here was multiplying independent events. Okay, and this one was testing for independence using the same formula. Okay, now let's get into the new stuff. The addition formula is this. You have the probability of A or B happening is equal to the probability of A happening plus the probability of B happening minus the probability of both of them happening. And I usually write it in symbols. Most people do. This is just to get you guys used to it. So this is the formula. Know this formula shows up. It's very useful. Okay, let's see an example. Example 2. So at Maspeth High School, student can take Latin or Mandarin. About 37% take Mandarin, while 48% take Latin and 5% take both. What is the probability of a student taking Latin or Mandarin? Probability of Latin or Mandarin by the formula is equal to the probability of Latin plus the probability of Mandarin minus the probability of students taking Latin or Mandarin. So the probability of Latin is 48% or 0.48. The probability of Mandarin is 37% or 0.37. and the probability of somebody taking both is 0.05. Okay, so the probability that you ask a student at Maspeth High School and say, hey, what subject do you take, Latin or Mandarin? Okay, 37% of the time, that person's going to say Mandarin. 48% of the time, right? If you ask 100 people, say 48 of those people would say that they take Latin, and out of 100 people, 5 of them would say both. So 0.48 plus 0.37 equals 0.85 minus 0.05. I just added these, and that is 0.8, or 80%. So if you ask 80 people, do you take Latin or Mandarin? I'm sorry, asked 100 people, do you take Latin or Mandarin? About 80 of those people would say yes to that answer. I take Latin, or some of them would say I take Mandarin, or someone would say I take both. And or is abbreviated with this symbol, a U, which means union. Okay, so we've got probability of A equals this. Probability of B equals that. Probability of A and B equals that. Probability of A or B. Well, let's see. So the formula to find the probability of A or B is probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A and B. Tells us A is 3/10. Tells us B, probability of B is 1/4. And tells us A and B is 3/100. So 3/10 is 0.3. 1/4 is 0.25. And 3/100 is 0.03. So we just do 0.3 plus 0.25 minus 0.03, and the answer is 0.52. Or 52%. Or 52/100 if we would have stuck with the fractions. Question 2. Same thing, different numbers. Oh no, not the same thing. So now we're asking for the probability of A and B. So whenever you see A or B, just write this formula. Don't even think about it. Okay, whenever you see this, you know this formula has to occur. So we substitute some things in. It's telling us that the probability of A or B is 61/100. Tells us the probability of A is 2/5. Tells us the probability of B is 7/20. And we don't know what this is. So we'll just call that X because we don't know what it is. 61/100. Let's see, 2/5. We could do these in decimals. So this is 0.4. 7 over 20 is 0.35. We don't know that. And this is 0.61. So 0.4 plus 0.35 is 0.75. Just solving for x, right? I'll subtract 0.75 from both sides. 0.61 minus 0.75 is negative 0.14. And a probability can't be negative, but I just multiply both sides of this by -1, and I get x equals 0.14, or the probability of A and B equals 0.14. So depending on what they give you, you can solve for probability of A and B. Maybe probability of B is missing. Maybe probability of A is missing. Maybe probability of A or B is missing. So you just solve it like a regular linear equation. Okay, 3. Red Hook High School has 480 freshmen. Of those freshmen, 333 take algebra, 306 take biology, 188 take both algebra and biology. Which of the following represents the number of freshmen who take at least one of these two classes? So probability of algebra or biology is the probability of algebra plus the probability of biology minus the probability of algebra and biology. The probability of algebra, there are 480, so that's 333 over 480, 333 students of the 480. Probability of biology, 306 of the 480, and 188 take both. We're subtracting that 188 because they're counted in either here, right, or here. So we're double counting them. That's why we're subtracting them out once. And this equals the probability of algebra or biology. So let's see. Sometimes it's easier to do these in fractions. So 333 divided by 480. Actually, this is just 333. They all have the same denominator. Okay. So the probability of someone taking algebra or biology is high. It's 451 over 480. So that's how you do it. Let me explain to you why you do it that way. So conceptually, so suppose you pick a shape at random. What is the probability that the shape is round or green? Again, or and is multiplication. So the probability that is round or green, round or green, that's a G, is the probability of it being round plus the probability of it being green, that's a G, supposed to be, minus the probability of round and green. Well, let's count the number of things that are round. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the probability you pick a round object is 5 out of the 9 objects. We've got 1, 2, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 5 of those 9 are round. The probability of picking a green object. This is green, 1. This is green, 2. This is green, 3. So that's 3 out of 9. But notice this. When we counted the first 2 of the green objects, we had already taken them into consideration when we were counting the round objects, which means that we overcounted, that this 3 overcounted. How many did it overcount? It overcounted by 1, 2. That's why you subtract the probability of A and B, because this number is too big. So this gives us 5 plus 3 minus 2 over 9, or 8 minus 2 over 9, or 6 over 9. So the probability of round or green is 6 out of the 9. So again, the reason that we're subtracting anything is because we're looking for the probability of round or green. Here we counted 2 of the ones that were round were also green. And the same thing here. 2 of the ones that were green were also round, so we overcounted by 2. So you can either think of this 2 as being included in the 5, or you can think of the 2 as being included in the 3. But either way, we counted this 2 already, so we want to get rid of it. Okay, normally I would do a check for understanding. Don't think that I'm going to go over these. Let's see, how far are we? We're only 18 minutes in. I think that what I've done so far, you guys can go back and just rewatch those videos. I'm sorry, just rewind the video. A standard die is rolled, probability of 3 or odd. I'll do the first one. Probability of 3 plus probability of odd minus probability of 3 and odd. Probability of getting a 3 is 1 out of 6. The probability of getting an odd number is 3 out of 6. Probability of getting a 3 and an odd, right? 3 is an odd number, minus 1 out of 6. So that's how this would look. And I don't know, just play around with it. It's not supposed to be easy, so take your time. This video is only 20 minutes long. Our classes are normally 45 minutes, which means you guys have 25 minutes to work on this stuff, essentially, and finish the worksheet that I post for homework, and we'll figure out a way to go over that on Tuesday. If you have any questions, send me an email. Have a good day. Stay safe.